The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was a marvel of ancient engineering. 12 towering seats formed a circle beneath a dome of living crystal that showed the spinning galaxies beyond. Each seat belonged to one of the elder species, beings who had ruled the stars for 10,000 years before humanity ever looked up at the night sky. At the far edge of the circle, almost hidden in shadow, sat a smaller chair. It was plain. It was simple. It belonged to humanity. Ambassador Tay sat in that chair now, his hands folded quietly in his lap. He was a thin man, with gray hair and calm eyes. He had served on the council for 20 years, and in all that time, he had learned one truth above all others. The elder species did not see him. They did not hear him. To them, he was furniture. High Chancellor Vaughn rose from his seat. The Velor were tall beings made of living crystal. Their bodies caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. They were beautiful and cold and absolutely certain of their own greatness. Vaughn's voice rang through the hall like breaking glass. The matter of the border territories is settled. The Velor will take control of sectors 7 through 12. The Tarn will manage trade routes. The Kira will oversee legal disputes. He paused and looked around the circle. Are there objections? Tay raised his hand. Vaughn looked at him the way one might look at a small insect. The human delegate wishes to speak. I do, Tay said. His voice was soft but steady. The border territories contain 17 human colony worlds. Our people have lived there for 200 years. Should we not have a voice in their governance? Silence filled the hall. Then Mira of the Tarn made a clicking sound with her mandibles. It was laughter. The humans wish to govern, she said. How amusing. Let them continue to carry our cargo and repair our ships. Politics is beyond their understanding. Tay did not react. He had heard such words 1,000 times. He simply nodded and lowered his hand. The session continued as if he had never spoken. Far from the council chambers, in the cold dark of space, Captain June stood on the bridge of his ship. The vessel was called the Everwatch, and it was the flagship of humanity's relief fleet. June was a broad-shouldered man with a scar across his jaw and eyes that had seen too much death. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Hana, approached with a datapad. She was young for her rank, but her mind was sharp as a blade. She managed the logistics for 17 colony worlds, ensuring that food and medicine and supplies reached billions of people across the stars. Report from Velor Colony 7, she said. The plague is spreading faster than predicted. They need more medical teams. June took the pad and studied the numbers. They were bad. Very bad. How many doctors do we have available? All of them are already deployed. We have been running at full capacity for 3 months. Hana hesitated. The Velor have their own medical facilities, their own doctors. Why do they not use them? June smiled. But there was no humor in it. Because their doctors do not treat common patients. They study. They research. They write papers. When real sickness comes, they do not know what to do. So they call us. Yes, they call us. June gave the order. More human doctors were pulled from other assignments, other emergencies, other desperate situations. They were sent to Velor Colony 7 to save lives that the Velor themselves could not save. No one said thank you. No one ever did. On the research station Horizon, scientist Yuna stared at the dying star on her screen. She was a small woman with quick hands and a brilliant mind. For 15 years, she had studied the life cycles of stars. She had made discoveries that would reshape the understanding of the universe. The elder species did not care. Her research was sent to council archives where it gathered dust. Her requests for funding were denied year after year. The Velor told her that stellar research was adequate and did not require human involvement. The Tarn said there was no profit in dying stars, but Yuna continued her work. She did it because it mattered. She did it because someone had to. Her assistant, a young man named Day, brought her a cup of tea. The council rejected our latest proposal, he said quietly. Yuna took the tea and sipped it. I know. Why do we keep trying? They will never listen. Yuna looked at the dying star on her screen. It was beautiful in its destruction. Layers of fire peeled away into the void, each one containing secrets that would take centuries to understand. Because someday, she said. They will need what we have learned. And when that day comes, we will be ready. Across the galaxy, in 100 different places, humans worked in silence. They healed the sick. They fed the hungry. They built and repaired and maintained the systems that kept civilization running. They translated 1,000 languages. They negotiated peace between species who had hated each other for millennia. They did the work that no one else wanted to do. Ambassador Tay returned to his quarters after the council session. He sat alone in the dark for a long time, thinking about the laughter, thinking about the dismissal, thinking about 300 years of service that had earned humanity nothing but contempt. His communication device blinked with a message from Captain June. It was a simple question. How much longer? Tay did not answer immediately. He looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human doctors were dying of the same plague they were trying to cure. Human soldiers were bleeding in wars that were not their own. Human engineers were keeping stations running that would fall apart without them, and no one noticed. No one cared. Tay picked up the device and typed his response. I do not know, but I fear we are approaching the end of our patience. He sent the message and turned off the lights. In the darkness of his room, on a station built by elder species who saw him as nothing more than a servant, Ambassador Tay began to wonder what the galaxy would look like if humanity simply walked away. It was a dangerous thought, but it would not leave his mind. The news came without warning. Deep in the unexplored regions of space, a cluster of planets had been discovered. They were called the Hollow Worlds because their cores were empty, but their surfaces were covered with minerals more valuable than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Enough wealth to fund empires for 10,000 years. The Velour claimed them first. High Chancellor Vaughn declared that the Hollow Worlds fell within Velour territory by ancient right. The Tarn disagreed. Mira stood before the council and announced that Tarn explorers had mapped the region centuries ago. The worlds belonged to them. Within days, warships gathered at the edge of the cluster. Velour and Tarn forces stared at each other across the cold emptiness of space. The galaxy held its breath. Ambassador Tay worked through the night. He did not sleep. He did not eat. He studied every law, every treaty, every precedent in council history. He consulted with human legal experts across 17 worlds. He drafted a proposal that could save millions of lives. The solution was elegant. The Hollow Worlds would become neutral territory, administered by a joint commission with representatives from all council species. Mining rights would be shared equally. Profits would be divided fairly. No blood would be spilled. Tay presented the proposal at the emergency council session. He spoke clearly and simply, laying out every detail with careful precision. When he finished, he looked around the circle of elder species and waited. High Chancellor Vaughn did not even read the document. He tossed it aside with a wave of his crystalline hand. This proposal comes from the human delegate, he said. Humans lack the cognitive depth to understand interstellar economics. Their opinion on matters of such importance is meaningless. Tay felt something cold settle in his chest. He had expected resistance. He had expected negotiation. He had not expected this. With respect, High Chancellor, he said. The proposal addresses all concerns raised by both the Velour and the Tarn. If you would simply read it. Mira interrupted him with that clicking laughter again. The little one does not understand his place. Let the humans fetch our cargo and polish our ships. Politics is beyond their capacity. The other elder species said nothing. The Kira, who might have spoken for fairness, remained silent. The rest simply looked away. Tay stood in the center of the great hall, surrounded by beings who had ruled the stars for millennia, and understood that he was completely alone. I see, he said quietly. Thank you for your time. He walked out of the chamber without looking back. That night, something happened that had never happened before in 300 years of human presence in the galaxy. Ambassador Tay activated a secure communication network that connected every human representative, captain, scientist, and worker across council space. Captain June received the signal on the bridge of the Everwatch. Lieutenant Hana received it in her logistics office. Scientist Yuna received it in her laboratory on Station Horizon. Millions of others received it in hospitals and factories and military bases and schools. The message was simple. Assembly. 1 hour. Attendance mandatory. June looked at Hana. Have you ever seen this protocol activated? Hana shook her head. It exists only for emergencies, extreme emergencies. Then we should pay attention. 1 hour later, Tay appeared on every human screen across the galaxy. He looked older than he had that morning. His eyes held a tiredness that went deeper than lack of sleep. My friends, he began. Today I presented a proposal to the Galactic Council. A proposal that would have prevented war. A proposal that could have saved millions of lives. He paused. It was rejected without being read. I was told that humans lack the intelligence to understand politics. I was told that our place is to carry cargo and repair ships. The silence across the network was absolute. For 300 years, we have served this galaxy. We have healed their sick when their own doctors could not. We have fought their wars when their own soldiers would not. We have built their stations, maintained their systems, translated their languages, and negotiated their peace treaties. We have given everything. His voice grew harder, and in return, we have received nothing but contempt. Captain June watched the screen with growing anger. He thought of the doctors he had sent to Velor Colony 7. 3 of them had died there, treating patients who never learned their names. They see us as tools. Tay continued. Perhaps it is time we remind them what happens when the tools walk away. Hana leaned forward. Her hands were shaking. Is he suggesting what I think he is suggesting? Yuna, watching from her laboratory, felt her heart beating faster. She thought of all the proposals rejected, all the discoveries ignored, all the years of being told that her work did not matter. Tay's face was calm now. Calm and certain. I am calling for a vote. A complete withdrawal of all human personnel, resources, and support from Council operations. We will not make demands. We will not negotiate. We will simply leave. And we will let them see what the galaxy looks like without us. The vote was conducted in silence. Millions of humans across dozens of worlds made their choice. The results came in within minutes. It was unanimous. Tay nodded slowly. Then, it is decided. We begin immediately. No announcements. No warnings. We simply stop. Let them wonder why. Captain June closed the communication channel and stood in silence for a long moment. Then he turned to Hana. Recall all relief operations. Every ship, every doctor, every soldier. Hana hesitated. Sir, there are ongoing emergencies. People will die. June's face was hard as stone. People have been dying for 300 years while we saved them. Let their own kind save them now. Let them learn what we have been doing all this time. He walked to the main viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that vast darkness, the Velor and the Tarn were preparing for war. A war that could have been prevented, with a simple compromise. A compromise they had refused to consider because it came from a human. They wanted to see what the galaxy looks like without us, June said quietly. Now they will find out. The withdrawal began that night. No announcements were made, no demands were issued. Humanity simply started to disappear from every corner of Council space, and no one noticed. Not yet. The first ships left in the middle of the night. Medical vessels pulled away from Velor colonies without explanation. Their human crews said nothing. They simply packed their equipment, walked to their ships, and flew away into the darkness between stars. On Velor Colony 7, the plague victims woke to find empty beds where human doctors had slept just hours before. The medicine cabinets were bare. The treatment plans were gone. Only silence remained. Captain June coordinated the withdrawal from the bridge of the Everwatch. His fleet of relief ships gathered at the edge of Council space like ghosts waiting to fade. 17 vessels. Hundreds of crew members. Thousands of tons of medical supplies and emergency equipment. All ships accounted for. Lieutenant Hana reported. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed the weight of what they were doing. Border territory operations are now fully withdrawn. June nodded. Set course for human space. We are going home. The fleet turned as one and vanished into the void. Behind them, the border territories grew quiet. The regular shipments of food and medicine that had arrived like clockwork for 200 years simply stopped coming. No one had thought to ask where they came from. Now there was no one left to ask. On Station Horizon, scientist Yuna worked through the night. She was not packing her personal belongings. She was packing something far more valuable. 300 years of research data, star maps that showed regions of space no elder species had ever explored, theoretical breakthroughs that could reshape the understanding of physics itself. Her assistant Day helped her transfer the files to secure human servers. "They will come looking for this," he said quietly. "This data belongs to the Council archives." Yuna smiled. But there was no warmth in it. "They rejected every proposal I ever submitted. They told me my work was meaningless. They said stars were not important." She closed the final file and locked it with encryption codes that no elder species could break. If they want it now, they can do the research themselves. She took one last look at her laboratory. 15 years of her life had been spent in this room. 15 years of discovery and wonder and bitter disappointment. She turned off the lights and walked away. Across the galaxy, the withdrawal continued in perfect silence. Human engineers on council stations submitted their resignations. All on the same day. All at the same hour. Station commanders did not understand what was happening until the humans were already gone. Human soldiers stationed at Tarn outposts packed their weapons and walked to their ships. They did not say goodbye. They did not explain. They simply left their posts and flew away. Human translators stopped answering calls. Diplomatic meetings ground to a halt as elder species realized they could not understand each other without human help. The Kira, who spoke through thought alone, had forgotten that most species could not hear their minds. Human teachers left alien academies in the middle of the semester. Their students arrived to find empty classrooms and locked doors. Human merchants closed their shops. Human workers left their factories. Human medics abandoned their clinics, one by one. System by system. World by world. Humanity vanished from council space. Ambassador Tay was the last to leave. He stood alone in the human embassy, a small building that had been home to human diplomats for 300 years. He walked through the empty halls one final time, touching the walls that held so many memories. His communication device blinked with a message from Captain June. "Embassy staff evacuated. Your transport is waiting." Tay typed a reply. One more thing to do. He walked to the council chambers for the last time. The Great Hall was in session, but the mood had changed. There were angry voices, confused voices. Something was wrong, and the elder species were only beginning to understand what. Tay stood in the doorway and waited. It took several minutes before anyone noticed him. High Chancellor Vaughn finally looked up with an expression of irritation. "The human delegate wishes to speak?" "Again?" "Yes," Tay said. His voice was calm and clear. "I wish to inform the Council that humanity is withdrawing from all operations in Council space. Effective immediately." Silence fell over the chamber. Vaughn's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "Withdrawing? What do you mean?" "Withdrawing? I mean exactly what I said. Our doctors have left your hospitals. Our soldiers have left your outposts. Our engineers have left your stations. Our translators, teachers, merchants, and workers have all returned to human space." Tay paused. "We are gone." Mira of the Tarn made a dismissive clicking sound. "You cannot simply leave. You have obligations, contracts, duties." Tay looked at her without expression. "We have been told repeatedly that we lack the intelligence to participate in council affairs. We have decided to accept your judgment. Clearly, beings as simple as ourselves have no place among such advanced species." He turned to go, then stopped at the doorway. "You wished to see what the galaxy looks like without humanity. Now you will see it. I hope you find it to your liking." He walked out of the chamber and did not look back. Behind him, the voices of the elder species rose in confusion and anger, but he did not care anymore. His transport was waiting. The pilot, a young woman named Sue, looked at him with questioning eyes. "Is it done?" Tay settled into his seat and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were going home, going to places where they were valued, going to build a future where they would never again be called simple or meaningless. "Yes," he said quietly. "It is done." The transport lifted off and joined the endless stream of human ships leaving council space. They flew in silence, a great migration that would be remembered for 10,000 years. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued to argue. They did not yet understand what had happened. They did not yet realize that the foundation of their civilization had just crumbled away. But they would learn. Very soon. They would learn. The first month was confusion. The second month was anger. By the 6th month, it was desperation. On Velor Colony 7, the plague had spread beyond all control. Thousands were dying every day. Velor physicians, who had spent their careers writing research papers in comfortable laboratories, found themselves facing a horror they could not comprehend. "Where are the treatment protocols?" demanded Medical Director Kell, his crystalline body flickering with distress. "The humans had them," his assistant replied. "They took everything when they left, then recreate them. You are physicians. This is what you were trained for," but they could not. For 300 years, human doctors had handled the actual treatment of patients, while Velor physicians focused on theoretical research. They had forgotten the basic skills. They had never needed to remember. The death toll climbed, and climbed, and climbed. In the trade lanes, chaos reigned. Tarn merchant ships that had once moved safely through the border territories now fell prey to pirates every day. The human patrol ships that had protected them for centuries were gone. The Tarn had their own warships, of course, but they had never bothered to patrol the trade routes themselves. That was work for lesser species. Now there was no one to do that work. Mira of the Tarn screamed at her commanders through the communication network. "Find the pirates. Destroy them. This cannot be difficult," but it was difficult. The human patrols had developed relationships with informants across the region. They knew where the pirates hid. They knew how they attacked. They knew everything because they had spent 300 years learning it. The Tarn knew nothing. Trade across 40 systems ground to a halt. Goods rotted in warehouses. Factories closed. Economies collapsed. The wealth that the Tarn had accumulated over 10,000 years began to vanish like smoke in the wind. The Hollow Worlds dispute exploded into open war. Without Ambassador Tay's compromise, without any human mediator to find common ground, the Velor and the Tarn launched their fleets against each other. The battles were brief and terrible. Stations burned. Ships exploded. Thousands died in the cold darkness of space. The Kira tried to intervene. They were the lawkeepers of the Council, the ancient telepaths who maintained order through wisdom and negotiation. But when they attempted to mediate between the warring factions, they discovered a terrible truth. They had forgotten how. For 300 years, humans had done the actual work of diplomacy. Humans had translated languages. Humans had drafted agreements. Humans had sat in endless meetings and listened to endless grievances and found endless compromises. The Kira had only provided final approval. They had never done the work themselves. And now, when they tried, they found that their skills had withered from lack of use. "We do not understand what they are saying," confessed Elder Mindthal, the leader of the Kira delegation. "Their thoughts are closed to us without translators. Their words make no sense without context. We are lost." On council stations across the galaxy, systems began to fail. Life support flickered. Power grids went unstable. Water recyclers stopped working. Human engineers had maintained these systems. They had understood the ancient technology that the elder species had built but forgotten. Now there was no one to fix what was breaking. Station commanders sent desperate messages into the void. "We need engineers. Our atmospheric processors are failing. Please send help." No help came. Refugee camps overflowed as populations fled from failing colonies and burning space stations. But no one had organized the camps. No one had prepared food supplies or medical facilities. These things had always been handled by humans. No one else had ever bothered to learn how. Captain June watched it all from the bridge of the Everwatch, now stationed safely in human space. His screens showed reports from across Council territory. Fire and death and chaos. Lieutenant Hana stood beside him. "The Velor Colony 7 plague has reached 30% mortality. The Tarn trade network has collapsed completely. The war between them has destroyed 17 space stations. The Kira are requesting emergency assistance." June said nothing. "Sir," Hana said quietly. "People are dying." "Yes," June agreed. "They are. Should we not help them?" June turned to look at her. His eyes were tired, but there was no regret in them. We helped them for 300 years. We bled for them. We died for them. And in return, they told us we were too stupid to understand politics. He turned back to the screens. Let them help themselves now. Let them learn what we were worth. On Station Horizon, which had been moved to human space, scientist Una continued her research. The data she had taken from Council archives was proving more valuable than anyone had imagined. Her discoveries were revolutionizing human science. Her assistant Day brought her a message one afternoon. The Valor Science Academy is requesting access to our research files. They say it is urgent. Their stellar monitoring systems are failing without our data. Una read the message and set it aside. Rejected, but their systems are critical. Without stellar monitoring, they cannot predict solar flares or gravitational anomalies. Ships could be destroyed. Colonies could be devastated. Una looked up at him. Her eyes were cold. For 15 years, they told me my research was meaningless. They rejected every proposal I submitted. They said stars were not important. She turned back to her work. Now they can discover for themselves how important stars really are. Across the galaxy, the elder species who had once ruled the stars sent message after message into the emptiness. Where are the humans? Why will they not answer? We need them. We need them. But the humans did not answer. And in his study on Earth, Ambassador Tay read the desperate transmissions from species who had never bothered to learn his name. He read the death tolls and the casualty reports and the pleas for assistance. He did not reply. He simply sat in his chair and watched the stars through his window. Somewhere out there, an ancient civilization was crumbling. 10,000 years of history were turning to ash. Tay felt no satisfaction. He felt no joy. He only felt tired, but he did not reply. Not yet. 1 year after the departure, a single Velar ship approached Earth. It was small and unarmored, flying without escort. It carried no weapons. It broadcast a signal of peace on all frequencies. High Chancellor Vaughn had come alone. The human government debated for 3 days before allowing him to land. Some argued that he should be turned away. Others said he should be made to wait, as humans had been made to wait for 3 centuries. In the end, they agreed to receive him, but there would be no ceremony, no grand hall, no display of power or wealth. Vaughn was escorted to a modest conference room in a government building. The walls were plain. The furniture was simple. A single window showed the green hills of Earth stretching toward the horizon. Ambassador Tay waited there alone. He sat at a small table with a cup of tea in his hands. He did not stand when Vaughn entered. He did not bow or offer words of welcome. He simply looked at the High Chancellor and waited. Vaughn's crystalline form had changed since their last meeting. His body was dimmer now. Cracks ran through his surface like scars. His light flickered with patterns that Tay had never seen from a Velor before. Patterns that spoke of exhaustion and fear and something that might have been shame. Ambassador Tay, Vaughn said. His voice was quieter than it had been a year ago. The arrogance was gone. Thank you for seeing me. Tay sipped his tea. What do you want? Vaughn hesitated. For a long moment, he simply stood there, looking at the human who had once sat ignored in the shadows of the council chamber. Then he spoke. You must return. The council is failing. I see, Tay said. Nothing more. The plague on our colonies has killed millions. Our physicians cannot contain it. Our medical systems have collapsed. Vaughn's form flickered with distress. The Tarn trade networks are gone. Pirates control half of the former shipping lanes. The war between our species has destroyed 23 stations and killed hundreds of thousands. Tay set down his cup. Continue. The Kira cannot maintain order. They have lost the ability to mediate. The other species are in chaos. Systems are failing across the galaxy. No one knows how to repair them. No one knows how to organize relief efforts. No one knows how to do anything. Vaughn's voice cracked, literally. A small piece of his crystalline body falling away. We did not understand. What did you not understand? Vaughn was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. Everything. You were everywhere, Ambassador. In every system. On every station. In every crisis. You were holding it all together. and we never noticed. We thought the galaxy ran itself. His form dimmed further. We thought we were the ones keeping civilization alive. We were wrong. Tay looked at him without expression. You told me that humans lacked the intelligence to understand politics. I was a fool. You laughed at our proposals. You dismissed our contributions. You called us simple creatures, fit only to carry cargo and repair machines. I was wrong. Vaughn's voice broke completely. I was so wrong. We all were. Silence filled the room. Outside the window, birds sang in the trees. The sun shone down on Earth's green fields. A world that had continued to thrive while the galaxy burned. Tay studied the High Chancellor for a long time. He thought about all the years of service, all the sacrifices, all the human doctors who had died treating Valor patients, all the human soldiers who had bled defending Tarn merchants, all the human scientists whose work had been rejected, all the human diplomats whose voices had been ignored. He thought about the cost of what had been done, and then he thought about the future. Why should we return? He asked quietly. We are thriving here. Our people are happy. Our civilization is growing. We have everything we need. Vaughn did not answer immediately. He looked around the simple room, at the plain walls and the modest furniture. He looked out the window at the green hills and the blue sky. Because you are better than us, he said finally. You help because it is right, not because you expect reward. You serve because it is your nature, not because you are forced. You are what we pretended to be for 10,000 years. He met Tay's eyes. And without you, we will destroy ourselves. Tay picked up his cup and finished his tea. He set it down carefully on the table. If humanity returns to the Council, he said, it will not be as servants. It will not be as tools. We return as equals, full voting rights, command authority, recognition of our contributions. Vaughn hesitated. Agreeing would mean overturning 10,000 years of tradition. It would mean admitting that humanity, the species they had dismissed as simple and unimportant, had become essential to the survival of galactic civilization. But the alternative was collapse. Agreed, Vaughn whispered. Tay nodded slowly. He reached for his communication device and activated a channel that connected him to Captain June on the Everwatch, to Lieutenant Hana in her logistics office, to Scientist Yuna on Station Horizon, to millions of humans across dozens of worlds. It is done, he said. They have agreed to our terms. A great sigh seemed to pass through the network. Relief and satisfaction and perhaps a touch of sadness for what had been lost. Then we go back? June asked. Yes, Tay said. We go back. But this time, we go back as equals. We go back as partners. We go back as the species that held the galaxy together when no one else could. He looked at Vaughn, who stood in the center of the room with his crystalline form dim and cracked, waiting to hear whether his civilization would survive. You have much work to do, Tay said. Your colonies need doctors. Your trade lanes need protection. Your stations need repairs. Your people need hope. We know, Vaughn said. We know. Tay stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the hills of Earth, at the world that had given birth to a species that the galaxy had underestimated for 300 years. Then let us begin, he said. It seems you have let everything fall apart in our absence. Vaughn had no response. He simply stood there in the modest room, his ancient form flickering with something that might have been shame, as he finally understood what the Council had possessed in humanity, what they had taken for granted, what they had nearly lost forever. Outside, the sun continued to shine on Earth's green fields, and across the galaxy, human ships began to move once again, returning to a civilization that had finally learned a simple truth. To underestimate humanity is to invite ruin. To stand beside them is to inherit the stars.